Hey guys, Master here. Just going to run through a quick demo today of the RPGToolkit Editor and what it's currently capable of. I'm just going to show you how to install that. One thing really important to point out is this is actually pre-release software. The file formats and folder structure are all subject to change. So let's go off and install that. So the first thing you're going to require is Java 8. It requires a minimum Java 8. Be able to head off to the official Java download page, which I'll include as a link in the description, and get yourself the latest version. I recommend you go with the current update just for security and performance reasons. One thing to note is that I haven't tested the software on anything other than Windows 10, so I don't know if it actually works on Age 7 or XP. I believe Java is probably not supported for XP anymore officially. It may still install and this may still run. I can't 100% guarantee. So after you've installed the latest version of Java, you need to go off to the releases pages for the RPGToolkit Editor. I'm going to include again a link in the description. And on this page you will find two releases. You'll find one from way back in 2015. This is the first alpha release of the editor. I think it was just the board editor. I'm not sure how many people actually tried that. I did make a YouTube video ages ago about it. And then you'll find this second alpha release, which actually comes with a basic installer and a sample project. So go ahead and download the zip file associated with that. And I've already got it downloaded here, so I'm just going to extract it. Okay, so I just extracted that, and inside that is just simply a setup.exe. If I hover over it, you'll get some information on the file version and meta or whatever. When you run this, it may ask you to trust the software, whether or not you trust this publisher. To run this demo, you're going to have to accept that or not. We're not a verified publisher, so it's just going to complain like it did in TK3. Let's go ahead and accept the license agreement. It's under Mozilla Public License version 2 if you're interested. By default, the editor is going to install itself inside the app data folder on your computer. This is just the editor executable. It's not actually your projects. It's really important that you don't put this in somewhere like the program files, since it won't have permission to write its log file, so it's probably best to leave it in its default location, or you can change it to somewhere like My Documents if you're interested in taking a look at the file structure. You should never really need to visit this folder unless you have some errors and you want to report back to the development team. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip through that. I'm going to tell it to create a desktop shortcut just because I want to show you guys what it looks like, and it's just going to give you some details on where it's installing it. This is also going to unpack a sample project into my user folder. So I'm going to just extract the Wizards Tower project, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so it's finished. I'm not going to launch it straight away. I'm just going to show you where everything was installed. So I'm just going to open another file explorer. It's a bit slow, sorry. I'm just going to go to my C drive and in my users folder. So this is a level above my, this is my user home directory. And in here, there's this RPGToolkit folder. This is your projects. You can see the default Wizards Tower project is inside here. Inside that there are all the sample project folder structure and the game file, which is actually the project file. Previously in TK3 you had this split between main and game folders. For this demo I've just packaged everything to one, just to make it easier to distribute. Okay, I don't think there's any real need to show you where the app data folder is. So I'll maybe take a look at that at the very end just to show you where the log files are if you're interested, or if you run into any issues that you want to report back. So I'm going to go to my desktop. On my desktop there is a shortcut for the toolkit. It's a bit hard to see given my desktop background, but it is the sword supplied by UX. That is currently the Discord channel, its logo. This is the color edition of it, and I'm just going to go ahead and launch it. And also thanks for the splash screen. Okay, so this is the editor. There's currently no open project, so this is what you're going to get when you open it first time. And I'm just going to point out a few things. On the right here are kind of some of your controls and panels that you're going to be using. This is the tileset panel. There's nothing currently loaded up in it. That's why it's blank. This properties panel is also blank. It is used for some of the types. It's mostly used for the board editor for things like sprites, programs, vectors at the minute. And then there's another tab here, layers, which is actually used for manipulating board layers. I'm going to show you how to use that in this demo. So if you just go up to the top and go to File, Open Project, and it's going to default to the RPGToolkit folder I just showed you a couple of minutes ago. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to take a look at the Wizard's Tower. I'm going to open up this project. And just like TK3, you're going to get this project editor, which is just some basic details about your project, such as the name of it, the initial board, initial character. There's the settings under here for RPG code. This is definitely subject to change. There's some things like your runtime, start programs, game over programs, and then some basic graphic settings. This doesn't really do anything yet since you can't actually run the game. So, it's just something to look at. Likely these kind of settings will definitely stay. So I'm just going to minimize that. So this is, unlike TK3, I think you can actually drag things around and overlap them. And I'm just going to minimize that. And by default, it's going to stick down here. Okay, so I'm going to actually run you through the board editor, which is probably the most important thing when it comes to building a game. It's also the editor with the most features. So probably the most interesting thing to show in this demo. So if you go to open a file, so if I go back to that and you go to need file open, you can use that. Or you can use this toolbar across here. I use the toolbar. You just go into it, will default to your projects folder. And if you go into the boards, there are a couple of sample boards. These were taken from the Wizard Tower. These are the first 3 boards from that game, TK3 game. And I'm just going to go in and I'm going to take a look at the first board. Okay, so I'm going to run through some of the tools on the board editor. Straight away, down here on the right, notice this properties has now been populated with some controls. These are board editor specific controls. These are actually for the board file itself. So there are some things to do with width and height. These currently don't do anything, but eventually you'll be able to resize the board dynamically. And you can do things like configure the neighbors of the board. And there's some music and entry program. Currently, I didn't ship any music files or any program files with this demo, just to keep the size of the zip small. So, again, if you go back to the Layers tab on the right, you can actually, this is kind of like a Photoshop-y GIMP style editor versus the old TK3 one, which is a bit cumbersome and difficult to use. You can do things like hide layers. So I'm going to hide the base layer, which is all the walls and the floor. And it just leaves the pillars, you can see. I'm going to hide the pillars as well. I'm going to do things like move the base layer above the pillars, move them back down. And you can do things like duplicate. You can create new layers, you can delete. So that's kind of a new feature. You can also do things like toggle the opacity as well. Like that. You can just, I can fade out a layer completely. Okay, so there are a couple of tools associated with the board. They're along this top toolbar. It's the section starting with the pencil. So if you hover over this, it'll tell you a bit about the tool. So the pencil one is used to draw tiles. You have a select region tool. You have a bucket tool, your eraser tool, your vector tool, your program tool, your sprite tool, and there's a board light tool, but it's disabled. There's no functionality behind it now. And you can also set the start position of the player for the board. There's also zoom in and zoom out, so I'll just quickly show the zoom in and zoom out functionality. So you can zoom into the location on the board, and then you can scroll to where you want if you want to get a bit more detail. And you can zoom out again. Okay, so I'm going to actually create a blank board just to show you. I'm going to reiterate this board, or some of it anyway. So if I go under File, New, there's a number of file types that this the editor you can currently create. I'm just going to pick the board one. So I know that this is a 20 by 16 board, so I'm just going to go 20 by 16. And that is going to create a new blank board of the same dimensions. And I know there are two layers on this board. One is pillars and one is base. I'm just going to add the second layer. I'm just going to leave them untitled for a minute. I'm going to start on the base layer. Obviously, before I can do any of that, I need to actually open the tile set. There's no eyedropper tool to take the tiles from one board to the other at the minute. So if you just go back to open and you find the tile sets directory and select the first tile set, and you'll get all the basic tiles that we used in the Wizard's Tower demo. Okay, so I'm actually, if I just click on this board now, it's going to do absolutely nothing because I don't have a tool or a tile selected. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the draw tile tool. I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to find the corner tiles that we used here. Okay, so just to make this actually easier, there are some tools to show the grid. So if you go to the view menu, you can also zoom in and zoom out from here. You can go you can show the grid, so I can see exactly where. You can also show coordinates on the grid. So I know that that corner is at position 5-1, so I can just find that position on this, drop that in, go across to 16-1, etc. Okay, so you can do things like drag across, and you can also drag down as well. So you can see that runs to 15-12, something like that. Oops. And you can also erase, so I've created some tiles here that I don't want, so I've selected the eraser tool. I'm just going to go erase those tiles. Now, probably one interesting feature, I'm not sure if this existed in TK3, I don't think so. I can actually select a region that I want to fill with tiles. So I can select any region. So I'm going to select this top region here, kind of where the door is. I'm going to fill it with some default tiles. And voila. I'm going to go back and show you another feature. So click somewhere, I don't want that selection anymore. I don't want the tile ready. I'm going to select multiple tiles from the actual tile set itself. So I'm going to take 2 from the top of the door, and I'm going to take 2 from the bottom of the door. So yeah, that's definitely a feature I don't think that existed in TK3. I'm not going to bother recreating the entire board because it's just kind of repetitive. I'm just going to dump a floor over everything. That's interesting. It didn't choose to fill these empty tiles for some reason. Like I said, there are bugs currently in this release, so I'm still finding them, and that's one that I'm actually going to take down. I'm going to try and take a look at that later. So I have this kind of very basic board now. Oh, crap. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that. There's actually no undo tools yet either, so I can't actually undo anything that I've done by accident. Oh, I don't think there's a mass delete either, so you have to kind of delete tiles one by one like this. These are all features that are planned and will hopefully arrive in version 4 or a later version. But at the minute you can just delete tiles by kind of dragging over areas. So that's kind of the basics behind tile editing. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the other tools. So I've showed you so far how to draw a tile, how to select a region of tiles, how to fill a region, and how to delete individual tiles. So the next thing I want to do is I'm actually going to create some pillars on the lowest layer, just the base of the pillars. I'm just going to stick them here and here. And on the second layer I'm going to create the other part of the tower, the pillar. Okay, so they're not exactly the same. Just add the layer, there and there. Okay, so I now have part of the pillar on the upper layer and part of it on the lower layer. And what I want to do is add a solid collision vector to the base of these two pillars. So the easiest way to do that is to actually say snap to grid. So this will fix the vector to the grid as I'm drawing. And I'm going to snap to this corner here, here, and here. It might be a bit hard to see the vectors, but I've drawn two vectors around the bases of the pillars. If you want to stop drawing a vector, well, to start it, you left click to start drawing the vector. I'll just turn the grid off here, it's a bit easier to probably see it. And the coordinates. I'll zoom in. So I'm going to maximize this. So I'm going to scroll down to where the vectors are. So if you want to start drawing a vector, just left click. And then if you want to stop, right click. And that will end the vector drawing. And if there are no points, then the vector just disappears. Whereas if I draw like that and I stop, it leaves the vector behind. If you want to select the vector, just right click on the vector. Make sure you have the vector tool selected up here in the toolbar, and then click on the vector. Also make sure you have the right layer selected as well. And then to delete that vector, hit the middle mouse button, so your mouse wheel. If you're not on the right layer, like I'm on the second layer now, I can't select the vectors in the lower layer. I have to go back down and select that layer, and then I can select these vectors. Now I'm going to zoom back out a bit, and I'm going to draw a program. You can do some things with the vectors, like set their types to under, stairs, waypoint, solid. Set it is closed. This closed only makes a difference. If I do something like that now, this vector should automatically close, so it just saves me drawing that last connection. So I can't select that. And delete that. Okay, so I'm just going to use, right next to the vectors tool is a programs tool. It works pretty much the same as a vectors tool in every way, apart from the color, and that you can select programs. All this is really quite subject to change, but in every respect, the programs tool is just a vectors tool. Okay, so I'm actually going to show you how to drop some sprites on this board as well. So if you go back and take a look at the other board, you can see that I already have some blocks on the board. So I'm going to add these blocks to this map. So this is actually one of the last tools that I'm going to show for the board editor, and this is the sprite tool. So I'm selected the bottom layer, and I'm going to stick two blocks in front of this door. Actually, I'm going to stick 4, so the player will be able to push them around. So when you stick sprites down, they're just going to appear as these white blocks. It's the same left click, right click to select, middle button to delete. It's the same for all the items that you put on the board. Those 3 mouse keys are used to manipulate them. So I'm going to right click, select this. There's a kind of a blue box around that. I may make these a bit easier to see in future versions. And I'm going to select the item file. There's one default item file with this project, the block. And I'm just going to maximize. And I'm going to turn these blank sprites into blocks. Okay, so I have now 4 blocks. You can do things like manipulate them, move them around. This is all tile-based movement. Not 100% sure if the drawing location is accurate. I don't think so. I think I need to shift them up by about half a tile. They should probably be drawn with the base down here and covering some of more of the wall there. You can do things like manipulate the layers. So I can bring this sprite up 1 layer. So this block is now on the top here. So if I hide that, that block is now on the layer above the other sprites. Just going to bring it back down. That's kind of all the tools for manipulating a board at the minute. That's all the things you can put on a board, so programs, vectors, tiles, sprites. There's one other thing you can do, which is set the player's start location. It's just like an arrow. So I'm just going to stick it here. You can see this blue arrow, blue cross. I mean, that you can just set that anywhere. It's pixel based. So what you'd expect when you start the engine is that the player would be loaded and they would start off in that location. I mean, technically I can put it inside vectors and programs wherever I want. You can't do anything other than set it. There's no manipulation of it. It doesn't do anything, really. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to save this file. Because it's unsaved, it's going to ask me, it's going to prompt me to save it. It's going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it demo, and then it's going to add the board extension to it, the board. I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to open it again, just to show you. And there's the board that I just created, with all the settings, the 2 layers that I want, and everything that I created still on that board. And you can also actually, I'm just going to run back and I'm just going to run you over the tile set panel here to the right. At the minute I've only got 1 tile set loaded up, and at the very bottom here you can see the name of that tile set. If you go to the tile sets folder, there's another one. You can open multiple tile sets and flick between them. So I can actually drop some torches onto this. They're not animated yet, but I can drop that onto that. And I can close the tile set with the middle mouse button. So kind of throughout this editor, closing or deleting things is the middle mouse button. And selecting things is kind of the right mouse button, and placing things is the left mouse button. Okay, so that actually covers off on all the features behind the board editor. So I'm actually going to close that. I don't want to save the changes. And then I'm just going to quickly show you the animation editor, and I'll probably show you the animation, one of the sprite type editors, and then maybe just how to import a new tile set. So I'll just show you the animation. I have a few already created. So if you go into Hero, so if you go File, I'll just show you that again, File, Open, Animations, Hero, and you take a look at the first animation. You'll get this kind of basic timeline kind of animation editor. And there are 3 kind of files that are being used in this animation. And again, here on the right, there is a properties window, and you can use that to manipulate a few things like the width of the animation, the height of it, its frame rate, what sound effect is going to be played. So if you actually click on this main panel here, you'll be able to see the animation play. And I can do something like add another frame to the animation. Just see if this does make any sense to add this. I mean, you can see that that file was added to the animation. And when you create a blank animation, there's no frames associated with it. So if you just want to add a frame, just click on this plus. Yeah, it will ask you for an image file. You can only add 1 image file at once at the minute. So I'll just create this arrow from 5 of these, and you click on this, it will kind of load up the animation in this frame, and you can see it kind of play very slowly. If I wanted to go faster, I just need to manipulate the frame rate. So, yeah. Okay, so that's kind of the animation. These animations are used in sprites, so they're used in characters, items, enemies at the minute. So if I open character, so I have a default character, the default hero character already created. I'm actually going to go open that. So that was file, characters, hero. There's only one. And this is a basic character editor. So it only includes very basic stats like the name, the experience, the health levels, some special power, and then how to set the animations. This is a kind of a new feature. It's a profile picture. It didn't exist in TK3. So you can double click on this, and you can pick a photograph or a picture as the profile for this character. And then the next tab is the animations. So this is where you actually use the animation files that you've created previously. And if you select this table, there are some entries here. There's some default kind of slots. It's the same kind of thing. You click on this and it plays animation. So there's some tools here for manipulating the actual animations. So you can add new ones. You can add a name for it, custom animation. You can set the active or idle animation default and ask you for the animation. You can do all that kind of stuff. There are two other type editors. There's the enemies and also the item type. And all these look and kind of handle pretty similar. So they've all got basic stats. They've all got animations. So it works pretty much very consistently across all three editors. And then lastly, I'm just going to show you how you actually import your toolset. There's something that Grindelf was asking about yesterday on the Discord channel. So this is currently how TK4 is doing it. If you go to create a new toolset, it's going to default to 32 by 32 tiles size. And I'm just going to OK that. It's going to ask me for a picture file somewhere on my PC. Now, I already have one in my downloads folder, so I'm just going to go find that. And I have this one here for demo. I'll just show you that. That's actually just some PNG I downloaded. So I downloaded this from Google Images. I think it's an RPG Maker toolset or something like that. I'm just going to ask it to import that. It's again going to ask me to save it as toolset, so I'm just going to call it demo, and then it loads it up there. And I can use this on a new board. So if I just create a new board, and go ahead and draw these tiles onto a board now. And that actually covers pretty much all the features currently available in this editor. There's a few placeholders for things like debugging, running programs, and help. None of that's been finalized yet, but hopefully you find this demo useful. And again, all the download links are included in the description, and if you have any questions, just post on the Discord channel. Okay.